Hello, everyone. Welcome to the worldwide launch of Eagle Radio International. I am Eliza Gonzales-Manglicmot, coming to you from Washington, D.C. Today, we bring you the very first episode of Lawyer Up, our legal information segment. But before we introduce our special guest, we wish to inform our listeners that this information is not provided in the course of and does not create or constitute an attorney-client relationship. It is not intended as a solicitation. It is not intended to convey or constitute legal advice and is not a substitute for obtaining legal advice from a qualified attorney. Joining us today, ladies and gentlemen, is a lawyer practicing in Maryland State, Ms. Kathlynne Ramirez. Hello, Ms. Ramirez. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Please go ahead and call me Kathy.
All right. Kathy, when it comes to equal employment opportunity, we hear it so many times that it has so many issues, complaints, and misinformation. Kindly explain to us what EEO or equal employment opportunity complaints are.
What these are commonly referred to as is discrimination.
Okay.
And today we're limiting our discussion to just discrimination in the workplace.
Okay.
Obviously, there's discrimination everywhere, whether it's in public accommodations, hotels, restaurants. Today's discussion will only be limited to workplace discrimination.
All right. Kathy, if someone is discriminated against in the workplace, tell us the difference between a federal and a private sector complaint?
Okay. In this area specifically, Maryland, Washington, D.C., we have so many federal employees. These are the employees who work for the Department of Defense, Department of USDA, DOJ, all of the agencies with a D in it.
Okay.
Their protections in the workplace are very limited, and they're carved out so that their process has to begin internally.
Okay.
For private individuals, their process can begin in the Fair Employment Practice agencies, such as the EEOC or in the state or in the county where they work.
Okay, so that's the difference between the two.
Yes.
Okay, before we dwell into how to file a complaint, let's first discuss what are the categories that best describe discrimination scenario.
Sure. The protected categories, like we said, are limited.
Okay.
So you can't complain about every unfairness in the workplace because not all of it will be protected.
Okay.
So the federal laws will only protect race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, and genetic information.
Okay, let's discuss all those. When it comes to race, how can someone be discriminated against when it comes to his or her race?
So discrimination takes the form of tangible and intangible employment actions. When we say tangible, these are things like hiring, firing, getting a raise, getting a promotion.
Okay.
And then there's the intangibles. It's the way you're being treated in the workplace, the way your co-employees maybe are alienating you, keeping you in the dark about meetings that should take place or even luncheons. So you can be discriminated against based on these things. But when we speak of race, we're talking about someone's ethnicity or their ancestry.
Okay, let's say I felt discriminated against because of my race. What are the steps I should take, or what proofs do I have to produce in order for my complaint to be valid?
So in your case, you would fall under the race of Asian.
Okay.
And there's two ways of proving discrimination. One is direct evidence.
Okay.
That's when somebody makes derogatory comments about your race.
Okay.
So Asians, they can think of a host of
yes,
names
there's
for
a lot.
us. If they come out and say it, then you've got the direct proof, direct evidence.
And no need for you to have it recorded as long as you heard it. you can use it?
You don't need to have it recorded, but if you hear it, you should document. Send
Okay.
yourself an email. Send your coworker an email saying, "Did you know that so and so said this to me today?" And then make the complaint right away.
Right away. Okay.
Tell your supervisor. If your supervisor was the one who did it, go up a level. See whether your company has written policies about reporting discrimination.
Okay, so that's just with the relationship between coworkers. Let's say when it comes to promotion or firing you or hiring you or not hiring you, how does it come in?
So here we are with the circumstantial evidence way of proving discrimination.
Okay.
So there's what we call the prima facie burden is on the complainant.
Okay.
You have to show that you belong to a protected category, Asian. And then you have to show that you applied for the job, that you were qualified for the job, but that you were not selected and somebody outside of your protected category, so someone not Asian, was chosen or selected for the job.
Okay.
Now the burden shifts to your employer to articulate, to simply state a legitimate non-discriminatory reason. We like to shortcut that by saying LNR.
Okay.
Okay, so they say
non-legitimate,
non-discriminatory reason.
Okay.
LNR. So they just have to say,
twister.
That's right. They just have to say this person was more qualified than you.
Okay, so the burden of proof shifts back to you.
Correct.
That you have to tell them, wait, I'm more qualified because I have this, I have this, I have this.
Precisely. And we call that pretext. You prove what they're saying is false.
Okay.
You can do that any number of ways, such as showing your resume, showing the number of years of experience you have, or your education.
Okay. You've mentioned too that color is a category and a national origin is a category. I would think that this would all fall under race. Could you differentiate to us and to our listeners, how does color and national origin differ from the race category?
Of course, interesting question. National origin refers to what nation your ancestries came from.
Okay.
So in our case, it would be Filipino.
Okay.
Philippines would be our national origin. Our race would be Asian. Our color would be maybe brown, sometimes yellow.
Okay.
All right. So all of these are different categories. It is possible for one race to have a variety of colors.
Okay.
So you could be an African American who is darker or who is lighter.
Okay. So how can you be discriminated against? Let's say you're African American, you have a lighter skin than your coworker. How does discrimination take place there?
It definitely can take place where, let's say, a lighter skinned supervisor is only promoting also lighter skinned African Americans.
But those who belong to the same race, but it so happened they have a different skin color.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
And I think even in our culture, we frequently have those discussions, right?
Yes.
Oh, she's lighter. Oh, he's darker.
Yes.
It's kind of funny.
It is. Well, you all belong to the same race, but
That's
just
correct.
because your color is a little bit different from the other, it sets you apart.
Yeah. So in this country, we're supposed to be colorblind.
Yes.
That we just base our employment decisions on merit.
Okay.
On the way you do your job, on your education, you can get ahead, not just the way you were born.
Okay. You also mentioned sex. I would think that discrimination when it comes to sex mostly is against the females. Has there any instance that you've encountered, or are there instances where the male is the one discriminated against because they're male?
Yes, there are instances where the male has been discriminated against. Actually, this brings to mind a case of a female-dominated environment, and the male was not promoted. So females, just as males, are able to discriminate against the males, and they will be liable for that. By the way, sex discrimination also covers pregnancy,
Oh, okay.
gender identity,
Mhm.
and sexual orientation.
Okay. So that all falls under there.
Yes.
Okay. So aside from being discriminated against because you're female in this very male-dominated workplaces, it could also happen uh, the other way.
For example, if you own your own business
Okay.
and all you hire are females,
Oh,
and
that's a
you-
basis for discrimination.
yeah, and
Oh.
you've rejected a very qualified male just because you prefer the females.
What if you sell
You're in
like
trouble.
female products?
Well, if a male would like to sell, as long as there's no demonstration required,
Okay.
there are what we call BFOQ,
What are these?
This
What
is
is this?
bona fide occupational qualification.
Okay.
And in that case, the employer has a legitimate non-discriminatory reason. Let's say you're hiring talent, you're hiring actors, and the
Okay.
role is for a male.
So
So you reject the females.
okay, that's okay.
It's a BFOQ, bona fide occupational qualification. Yes.
All right. Age. Before we go to break, how about age? How old or how young must you be to be protected by this category?
The Age Discrimination in Employment Act, ADEA,
Mhm.
covers workers who are 40 and above.
Okay.
If you're younger than 40, then you don't have an age claim.
Okay. So I can complain. Let's say I've been working for this
Oh, no,
company.
you can't because you're only 33.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's say I'm 41, which is the real number. And I don't get promoted. Someone gets the promotion and let's say she's like a fresh graduate. How can I file, or how can I categorize that as a discrimination against my age?
Okay, so it depends on whether you're a federal or you're a private employee.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the federal government, you must, within 45 days
Mhm.
of the discrimination, the non-selection,
Okay.
you must file with an EEO counselor.
Okay.
So you need to look it up. If it's not immediately available, then go online into your agency's website and find out who the EEO counselors are in your agency.
Okay.
If you are a private employee, then you have, usually it's 180 days
Okay.
to make a complaint to one of these fair employment practice agencies.
Okay. So that's 180. That's
6 months.
Okay.
Right.
So let's say we go to personal appearances. It's a category too, right?
So Washington, D.C.
Okay.
provides greater protections than the federal government. So
Okay.
D.C. does protect personal appearance.
Well, could you explain this further?
I really can't.
Okay. Let me rephrase it.
It's the way, it's the length of your hair.
Okay.
It's how thick your eyebrows are.
Okay. So if you wanna carry yourself you wanna go to the workplace with a unibrow and you're in customer service, they cannot demote you or something.
So with respect to customer service, there are acceptable grooming standards,
Okay.
right? Hygiene is one of them. So it all depends.
So it
on
should
the
be
reason.
stated on the contract, right? That upon accepting this job, you're expected to, go to work,
Yes,
showered.
it's a policy. Yeah, it would be a clear employment policy.
Okay.
Now we have to be careful. Not all jobs have a contract,
Okay.
because here in the United States, it's what we call at-will employment.
Mm-hmm.
Your employer has the ability to hire and fire you at will,
Mm-hmm.
unless you've got something written in a contract.
Oh, wow. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Lawyer Up, a segment for Eagle Radio International. Before we go on break, we'd like to thank you for listening, and we'll be right back to discuss more with Miss Kathlynne Ramirez. Please stay tuned.